Get this recording. Let me know when you're ready, and we'll just get started.
I'm just saying, answering questions. That's all I'm doing, right? Do you need me to sit further back? Do you need me to sit
So, I'm looking at the corner, or I'm not looking directly at your face. You're looking at the computer. So where's your camera at?
Right there.
Okay. So, so I know it's kind of weird to just look at the camera when you're trying.
Yeah, because you're on my screen here and my camera's right here. I guess I could move my camera over to the screen that I'm talking on, right? Like that.
Perfect.
I should be looking at you and the camera at the same time, right?
I believe
so. One of those double screens.
And you know what? We're not going to
go taped on. I wonder if it's gonna. Hopefully, it doesn't fall. If it does fall, we'll ad lib.
Yeah, that's fine. We're not going to go live on Facebook because I got to figure out how to use that a little bit better. So we'll just keep recording and keep it moving forward. Cool?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to count down from 3, and we'll just kind of get it started. 70-second episode. Good deal? All right.
More like that, so it's not just getting my whole face or what?
That's up to you. However you want to look pretty to the camera, brother.
Just getting my chin. Hold on. Like I said, I don't have this glued onto my.
You got duct tape?
No duct tape.
Oh man, you're missing out.
That's at least my head's on the top.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm wearing a hat.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the last one I was down here.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. We are on the 72nd episode of the #InvestThis podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bauer, and today very blessed to have Chris Eymann with us with Sell Wholesale Houses.com. Chris, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. It's a Monday. It's nice and hot, nice and sunny out here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. So, excited to.
Birthday? Which birthday was that?
For me?
Yeah.
Big old 31 and fun, brother. That's what it's all about.
31 and
fun. Just had my 31st birthday. Really excited. This is going to be a killer of the year. There's a lot of changes going on in the market, which is what we're going to talk about. One of the things we'll talk about today, but pumped because we got some good stuff moving. So, Chris, why don't we start the call off? Why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background and kind of, what you're focused on now?
Okay, so started in 99, did foreclosures for, probably up until 2014, 15. Then it slowly started to dry out after the big crash. Had to go work direct to seller, kind of like you do. Because there's not a lot down at the auction steps. So I am currently kind of the wholesaler's wholesaler, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. But for everybody else out there listening, what does that mean?
I'm just, we do our own direct to seller campaigns, but that probably only brings in, call it 3 to 5 houses of our inventory a month. And then we just try to focus on wholesalers that don't have a disposition arm and sell their properties. We're probably one of the only guys in town that will commit to properties and guarantee that we'll close it versus just, blasting them out. But, we do a little bit of both.
So for a lot of listeners out there that maybe aren't so familiar with this, there are, if you don't have a disposition leg, it's very useful to have somebody that does have a disposition arm to their company like yourself to sell your properties. Because if you get a property that either you buy or you get under contract and you have nobody to sell it to, you're kind of you got a problem, right? So what Chris has been able to develop is a phenomenal list and a phenomenal buyer's list of people out there that are committing or that will buy properties from him. And so from either a new wholesaler that's going out there, or if somebody that just doesn't have a disposition leg needs somebody like that, Chris is a great resource for that. Now, how did you develop your list? How did you get the people that you're selling to? Is it over time? Is it people you met down at the auction? Let's elaborate on that for a little bit.
Well, it's, 20 years, like December 2019 will be my 20th year. I bought my first house in December 21st, 99. So, it's probably over time. Obviously, networking, hitting all your networking events. I'm a hard money lender too, so people request to be a hard money. And then obviously the REIA, which just started last year, obviously brings in a bunch of contacts as well.
And I think it's important to talk about that as well. The REIA guys, everybody else, if you're here in Phoenix, you probably should go to the REIA. He's done a really good job of putting it together. A lot of value that you're getting out of that meeting. And I think, we're gonna have a meeting this month?
Yeah, tomorrow we're actually just doing a Christmas in July. It's tomorrow. We're just gonna go hit some balls at Topgolf. Attendance is down, as you know. Everybody's traveling, families, that kind of stuff. June and July is a big travel time for a lot of people. Those events are expensive to put on. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
And we're we're phoenixrea.org. We're really not trying to make money. So putting on a big old event for July to have a bunch of people or not a lot of people show up isn't very valuable. So we actually did Topgolf, and we only have, I think, 35 RSVPs when we normally have over 100 to 120 people at a meeting. So that kind of gives you an idea. Made the right decision there.
It's kind of funny. When I first moved to Arizona, one of the big things for me that was different was the fact that everybody leaves or stays inside during the summertime. It's kind of the exact opposite of where I come from, Iowa, where everybody goes outside in the summertime because they can't during the winter.
Right.
And here, we're so blessed because most of the year is beautiful, right? So you could be outside. But kind of going back to, building the list and what you're focused on now and kind of how you got to where you're at. I mean, where was the real big ramp up for you? I mean, you said 99 to 2014.
Yeah. So I was just kind of an independent guy. There weren't very many people. There were like 3 or 4 of us at the steps for a long time. I partnered with 2 other guys in town in 2000. 2002 and 2003. It's currently a company in town, so I don't want to promote their business, but we ended up getting a $100 million line of credit. So we were probably one of the biggest hard money lenders in the state. We could fund the next day. We had we were all throughout the Southwest. We were buying, 5 to 7 houses at the auction. This is when the wholesale market was, you actually bought and wholesaled, not everybody just signing stuff up and assigning it like they do today.
So that's a good point to talk about. Let's talk about the differences there and why, from what I see, I really don't like to tie up properties and not close. That's a big problem for me. And I've done a really good job of really mitigating that. There's only a handful that I could probably count on one hand of times I've had to do that. But what are the majority of people out there doing?
Well, every guru you see goes through Facebook. It's like the no money down way of doing real estate, right?
Yep.
Take somebody's class, and I've done a couple classes myself. So, go take somebody's class, get a contract, sign it up, and assign it in your 10-day inspection period with no intention of ever closing it. That's kind of the deal. At least, on my acquisitions, like your acquisitions, when we're talking to the seller, we have every intention of either assigning it or closing it on our buy price. Not everybody works that same model.
Now, what legal ramifications for people out there? There's people that listen to this podcast that have never done a deal before, that have never, are just trying to get their feet wet, trying to get into this space. So what is the legal ramification for somebody that does have no intention on closing if they go and tie a property up for somebody? And I know you're not giving legal advice, so I want to make sure that we say that. This is not legal advice. This is just opinions.
Yeah. Well, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just following the contract, right? If the contract has an inspection period, then they have every right to exercise their inspection period and cancel. Just like if you're buying a deal off MLS or you're buying a deal direct to seller, a lot of those sellers, you're talking to somebody in general that's not selling for retail, so they're in some kind of situation. Mm-hmm. That's where you get your properties, is trying to figure out that situation and solve their problem. So when you're solving their problem and they have an expectation, it just kind of like to cancel on them on day 10. And sometimes they may think they're closing on day 14. Now they have a bigger problem.
Right. Right. And they're probably not happy with you, but it's, well, it's legal.
Yeah, there's no problem with it. It's just, when I'm talking to them, I'm really just trying to say, hey, I'm going to close this. I'm not just shopping it, but I also have, a decent amount of cash behind me, so I can do that. So you go to the guru and you pay that for their education, but you don't have the money to do it, then it's a different thing.
So for people out there that don't have the money for it, talk to them about that, on how they can get the money, or what are some different resources out there for people that want to get into it. Even if you're experienced and you need more cash, how can somebody go out and find money or go find a way to get into the business if you don't have any of your own?
Well, that's kind of where I, play in. It's like, hey, you go find those deals, you send them to me. If I like it, I'll underwrite it in an hour or two. Sometimes I'm busy, maybe it's 5. But I'll buy those properties and commit to you that I'll buy it and put up non-refundable earnest money. And or if you got, a little bit of the money, I can do a hard money loan for you. So.
Okay. What would you say the percentage of people, so the primary business for you is wholesaling, you're a good wholesale leg for people and disposition leg for people. What is the percentage of that compared to hard money? And after you answer that question, I'll go back to another question that kind of leads into that.
I don't know. I did 278 houses in 18, and I did 420 loans. So there's your numbers. I mean, I do almost twice as many hard money loans. Not quite, maybe 1.5 hard money loans compared to wholesale deals.
Okay. And have you thought about, is it all single family stuff that you're focused on, or are there other asset classes that you're loaning money on or otherwise underwriting?
No, we do some small commercials, small multifamily, but really it's just single family residences. We do up to about $1 million, $1.5 million. But as soon as it gets commercial over $1 million, it's kind of not my expertise. So I don't play in it, right?
Yeah.
You usually get hurt, and when you start doing stuff you don't understand. So
I think that's a good point to talk about for a minute. Staying focused, one, and staying in your lane, two, and not falling into shiny object syndrome. I've talked about that a lot on this podcast with a lot of different people, and I want to get your take on that. What do you think about that? You've already kind of mentioned it, but elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I know my focus is wholesaling deals. That's what I focus on. That's what I concentrate on. Like I said, we did 278 homes. It's really just, it's not like I got a giant team at disposition. It's kind of just me and my email blast. So, I guess I should maybe do a little bit more, but, I'm pretty, satisfied doing 278 homes by myself and my little text messaging on my phone. So, yeah, so I kind of stay in my lane. I don't wander around. I'm not trying to do any commercial buildings or anything like that. And then my hard money wing, like I said, we did 420 loans. We're not the biggest lender in town. We don't have the cheapest rate in town. We're right there kind of in the middle. And I think we're one of the easiest to deal with. You send us a contract, we fund the deal. It's pretty simple.
Pretty straightforward and simple. And that really makes, not being the cheapest in town doesn't, you don't always want the cheapest in town, right? If it's the cheapest in town, but a huge pain, and no, you don't have any guarantee that you're actually going to close or fund on time, put you in a bad spot with the seller, et cetera, that's a problem. So yeah, totally get that. You mentioned something about your team. What does the team look like?
My team is really small. I have I have 2 drivers. Because we obviously drive our hard money loans. We look at properties. I have a loan processor, a transaction coordinator, and an office manager, and that's the whole team. It's not very big.
Dude, you're running lean, man. Like, running lean is kind of the way to go. I think a lot of people have this idea that you have to have a massive team of people, that you have to. And even the gurus might say that, right? You got to go out there, you get an acquisitions person, you get a dispositions person, an office manager, an admin, transaction coordinator. Before you know it, your overhead is massive, right? So why do that? What would you tell the listeners out there as far as building a team and staying lean? What is some advice you could give for them?
Yeah, so I guess I missed. So the 3 that I mentioned were on kind of my payroll. I do have 2 acquisition managers, but they're sales guys, right?
Yep.
they just, if they get a deal, they make money. If they don't, they don't. And then I don't know if it's industry standard or not. I think it's pretty close, but I pay them 20%, right? They go find deals. They get 20% of the deal, whether they find it off a Facebook deal or a Craigslist deal or, wherever they find it.
Yeah.
But as far as the payroll people, like I said, just 3 people in house. Like I said, we don't have this giant, massive, cool office. We're not in some downtown space or anything. I own a little, office building that's a residential office that was, I think, built in like 1954.
When did you buy that?
Actually got it at Trustee sale back in the downturn for $70,000. So right place.
Grabbed one of those huge, great deals. We actually just canceled our lease for the building I'm in now. So I'm going to be looking to either buy something or go lease somewhere different. Would you say it's been a benefit for you to own that compared to leasing or renting somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know. We actually, since the guy to the west of us, unfortunately, he got some cancer, so he wanted to sell his building, right place, right time again. And then, so we now own 3 buildings in the same thing, got them all discounted. So we own 3 buildings in a row, but they're paid for. There's no overhead. Like, you just don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you know what? Obviously, like, I don't like to buy anything at full price at all, ever, anywhere that I'm at, because if you just ask for a discount, a lot of times you can get one. And that's probably a trick of the trade, right? I mean, you have to be able to buy stuff at a discount all the time in order to be able to make money, because that's
you
just
do this business and you're just used to it. It's like, I just got $70,000 off that house. I mean, same thing when you buy a car, but like, I want that same discount.
Right. What would you say, what's a big obstacle that you've had to overcome in your career? I mean, 99, really to 2014, right? You were buying at the Trustee sale, but I also know, you were in that partnership. Was that a challenge? Was that a problem? I mean, how was that?
It's being in a partnership is like being in a marriage, right? It's kind of one of those things. You're not always going to get along. As long as you got the commitment to stay, together. The reason why the partnership broke up is, the downturn happened. We had a, large credit line out in hard money and personal guarantees on it. And when the credit line goes away and the money goes away and there's nothing left, it's real easy to go, nothing left. Do we still love each other? Do we still like each other? Right? We all just kind of went our own separate ways. I'm in a partnership now with my sister and my brother-in-law, so they're family, so we can't break up. We're family. So, it's been, and that doesn't mean we don't get on uncomfortable phone calls every now and then, because we do,
Yeah. Well, in my experience, all the gurus out there that I know, have talked to, books I've read, say that, going into a partnership with family is a death trap in a way. I mean, how does somebody combat that? To make sure that you don't have a complete falling out where you lose your sister and brother-in-law out of the situation.
We've been doing it since 2006 or 7. So, it's been 12, 13 years. So I think we're good. Obviously me and my sister fought as kids. We fight as adults, just setting the rules of fighting up, right? So if it's late night, just put it off till tomorrow, that kind of stuff. Realize that everybody maybe doesn't come across that they had the best intentions, but thinking that they had the best intentions and, listening to their story, because obviously people misunderstand people all the time.
Right. I mean, talk about being fair and really being, in the time that I've known you to be a very fair person, somebody that, can be relied upon. But in this massive space of Phoenix, I mean, I would argue that we are the most competitive market in the country at this point. If not always, right?
Yeah, right.
You could lose your credibility very, very quickly by not being transparent and not being honest, right? And not doing what you say you're going to do. So how has that played a role for you in building your business?
Well, the relationship is always my number one priority, not the money. And I've always looked at it that way. So I think that's kept me out of hot water. I've had, buyers on the wholesale said, oh, this didn't go right. This doesn't go right. I'm like, take the house for free. I I don't want your money, take the house. Like that's our, and it doesn't happen often, but I've done it my fair share of times. You know, and on the reverse, you're buying from other people that, you know, in that situation, when I find somebody that has kind of led me down the wrong path, I'm okay saying we just won't do deals together. I'm not going to send you a bunch of bad text messages or anything like that. I'm just like, cool, let's just not do any more deals.
It's not going to work, right? Yeah. Keep it simple and straightforward. Yeah, I think, I don't know, there's some bad apples here in Phoenix. I know some of them that I just really prefer not to do business with, and it's a big enough space where you can do that and still do okay, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how many people are doing well in Phoenix right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we got a great market. I mean, inventory is low. It's 14,800 active listings across all spaces, mobiles, land, the whole thing. You know, so that means single family is probably in the 4,000 to 5,000 range. So
let's talk about good segue into the market and kind of your thoughts on the market. You've been through the cycles, right? So if 99, so there was a cycle in what, 2000, was there a blip in 04 or 2000?
No, 04, 05, 06 was straight up. We were going just, I mean, there was like 5,000, 6,000 houses on the market. It was like, put it on MLS, this is fax machine days, right? Get 10 faxed offers, right? So, yeah, that was pretty much started in late 04, went to all the way through 06. Then obviously 07, 08, downturn years, you know, kind of 9 is where it started to, you know, people really started to buy again, get back in. Funds, I think, were 2010, 11, started to jump back in the game. So
where do you see we're at now, right? Funds have started to come back and start buying again in Phoenix. We have these new companies, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow Instant Offers even, right? So, I mean, where do you feel like we're at in the cycle with the experience that you have
had? So we're kind of in an interesting spot. Low inventory. Wall Street Journal, I just put it on the REIA Facebook page. So if you are on the REIA Facebook page, the Wall Street Journal put out an article Thursday or Friday about all the iBuyers in town, the low inventory in town. Technology companies, you know, keep coming here. Goodyear's landed a couple big companies. Don't remember their names, but that's been on the news a couple recently. So obviously, Maricopa County was the largest growth county in, you know, the United States, 80,000 people, right, last year. I mean, all good numbers for us. So, and obviously we've seen it in prices increases and rents. I mean, rents had been stagnant for years, and rents have really started to come back up in the last, probably the last 2 or 3 years, rents have really started to climb. So, as if anybody was around the real estate market last year, I mean, July turned into the ghost town that lasted through January. I mean, it was a little painful. It was hard to get deals, but I mean, you can see our market right now. It's not showing no signs of that summer to late fall stop right now.
So, you know, I mean, do you think that it's going to continue to keep going? Obviously, we're coming up to an election year, right? And I think that this administration has been very good for real estate in general, but with our low inventory and still very high demand, we got a ton of people moving here, right? I mean, the fundamentals show that we don't have a stop in that appears to be coming anytime soon.
Right.
How would you combat that? Because I think that they didn't think it was going to happen before either.
Well, if you got to look at 2018, we saw a 1.25 jump in interest rates. So that kind of was then, like, I want to say it was June or August of last year, was like, oh, the downturn's coming. It literally stopped. I mean, you know, the numbers for actually the western part of the United States were really slow. I think Phoenix was the only one that was still kind of hanging in there a little bit. Obviously, we saw the interest rates drop back down in early 19. I think they're on a 3-year low right now. So obviously that's creating, you know, the higher demand. Everybody's trying to get into those low interest rates. But if we see another 1 to 1.5 point tick up like we did in 18, I mean, this city stopped. Like, it didn't stop, but it came to a turtle crawl. So it only takes something like that to do it again.
And that happened in the late second and third quarter of 2018, right? So I want to say the Fed said, what was it, a couple weeks ago, that they weren't going to raise interest rates again. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? You know,
Well,
and let's talk about, well, answer that question first.
as long as they stay low, I mean, people are going to buy. But like I said, we saw those rates tick up to almost 5 to 5.25 in the third and fourth quarter of 18, and it definitely slowed the market for sure. So,
What do you think about so if we go back to just looking at wholesaling compared to the retail market, you know, with having such low inventory, how good of an idea would it be for somebody to try a different approach and maybe wholesale something, or take down fix and flips again if they wouldn't otherwise do that because the wholesale market maybe isn't as strong? Do you feel like the wholesale market is still as strong as it was?
well, I mean, obviously, if you talk to everybody in town, the problem is inventory, whether you're a wholesale guy or a retail guy.
Yeah.
And as a wholesaler, as inventory shrinks, you know, every wholesaler is probably pushing their numbers. Oh, it's 200. Let's try to sell it for 165, right? So, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, are keeping. I know, you know, there's a bunch of groups that are just keeping their inventory, not even wholesaling, because, you know, the MLS market is so strong. So, you know,
Right.
you have that problem too. So now you got a typical guy who that's usually wholesales, that won't wholesale it. You know, every market gets kind of squeezed. So, you know, if it's clean, it might be worth a good shot to wholesale it.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a house we're just about to put on the market on that same approach because, you know, we can wholesale it for a small number or try to wholesale it and make some more, right? And it kind of makes sense. But just trying to get your thoughts on, you know, which direction is the best for somebody out there right now. You know, that is, you know, I
Well,
mean,
if you got cash, you can wholesale, right? Because you got to actually take it down and then stick it on MLS. If you're one of those guys that low on cash, you know, wholesale, you know, all you got is your earnest money out and wholesale it and get a check. So it's all based on cash position, how much your cost of funds are, all that kind of stuff.
definitely. What about, so let's switch over to marketing. On a marketing standpoint, you know, over the last few years, we've had a lot of this cold calling that's really popped up. Direct mail has always been around. You got online marketing. What have you found to be the best marketing channel for you to get the best return on investment and really just the best overall marketing channel? Because I know you do a few, don't you?
Yeah. So the best marketing channel for me is finding other wholesalers because it's a different marketing channel, right? So that's the best one. You know, I think our letters are still around $2,400 to $2,500 per acquisition. Our cold calling, I think it's jumped up. We were cold calling and it was at 1,200. I think it's closer to 1,600, 1,700. But once again, everybody's doing it. I haven't jumped into the ringless voicemail or text message game because I still think there's legislation coming down on that, and so I've just avoided it. I've never done pay-per-click just because it is obviously the highest end, right? I've never done it, but I've heard numbers at like $4,000 to $5,000 in acquisition, but I've never done it, so that's a rumor, you know. So
Yeah. What about legislation as far as cold calling goes? I heard, and I didn't actually see the article, but something where it has passed. Something has passed where now you can be charged or you can get in trouble for cold calling. I mean, have you heard anything about that?
I haven't seen the article. I know that I know that Florida outlawed the ringless voicemail and text messaging deal. So that's kind of the first one I knew about. I expect more. We just had Dax Watson at the REIA talking about it's $500 per offense. So, I mean, there's your downside liability. I know a couple people have settled with, it sounds like there's a couple law firms out there kind of witch hunting, you know, trying to get $2,500, $5,000. So I don't know, just kind of something that I've stayed away from. If there is some legislation on cold calling, I'll back that out too. So.
Yeah, I hear that. That's really important. What about direct mail? Do you still do direct mail or no?
Yeah, direct mail. Like I said, we're about $2,500. You know, So an acquisition, but I mean, and you're competing against more people, but generally because I have a better disposition, I can generally pay more. So.
Yep. So, I mean, what does the next 5 years look like for you? I know, you and I talked off the call about you had some spec houses that you're doing, you're kind of going down that road. Do you think you'll stay in the space that you're in, or what's the 5-year plan for Chris Eymann?
So the spec houses, I'm closing my last one tomorrow. I think that's my last one. I just, obviously when you have a run, I mean, the stock market, real estate, everything's been on like, a good 10, 12-year run. So sooner or later, something's going to click. I don't know what it was. Last time it was real estate. The time before that, it was tech stocks, right? Something's going to click to make a change. I just don't know what it is. I am entering the VRBO space, higher end, not 200 to 400,000. I think I'm going to enter like the 750 to $1 million space. Just try to get 3 or 4 of those in the next year. Cash flow for retirement. Not that I'm going to retire, but I'd like to set it up.
Yeah. I mean, be prepared for it. Yeah, I think I had a run in the VRBO Airbnb space. We're a little bit in the lower end, and it's definitely congested, I should say, right? There's a lot of mom and pops that are doing it and really drives the price down. You probably don't run into that in the higher end market. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've done my due diligence as far as comping, in that space. I don't know, acquisition 750 to $1 million. You're looking at about, I don't know, 150 to 200,000 gross rent. I'll probably manage it myself. So, I mean, property management companies take anywhere from 20 to 30%. So that's on 200 grand. That's a decent sized number. So, I'm not that busy. I just need a good cleaning crew, right?
Oh man, if you're not that busy, let's get you busier, man. Yeah, I got stuff you could do if you're that bored, man. I got stuff.
I got a personal assistant, so she's not that busy. Let's put it that
way. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, do you think 5 years from now you're still going to be around in the same spot that you're in?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, open door offer pad, they're changing the landscape. You can't buy stucco tile houses. They'll pay more than I can. So you obviously got to, make sure your marketing goes to the right people. Maybe I'll go to another city. Maybe I'll go be a big fish in a smaller city. You never know. I mean, that's the one thing in 20 years that I know is the ability to adapt and change as the market changes is probably the #1 success rate.
So with the ability to adapt and change, that is massively huge. I think in any market or any business that you're in, you have to be able to shift or pivot when you need to, right? But while nobody knows when that shift or pivot is going to happen or what market segment is going to change first or whether it's going to be stocks or real estate or whatever, what advice can you give for people out there to try to protect their downside, to make sure that they don't get totally wiped out when the correction does happen, if and when, or not if, but when it does happen? I mean, what's some advice you can give there?
So obviously the last time around, buying rentals that cash flow, like the cash flow today, not in the future, right? So if it doesn't pencil out in cash flow and at least give you covering your debt service, your maintenance, all that stuff, if it's taking money out of your pocket as far as what your, weekly and monthly income that you live off of, obviously that's a drain. And if you have multiple, then that's a big drain, right? Because then it's not sustainable. So that's #1. Personal guarantees. I signed that big giant personal guarantee. I'll never do that again. I'm not making as much money on the hard money because I could go get a line of credit, but then I got to sign a personal guarantee, right? I'm using private guys, more expensive, but if there's a downturn, I've warned them like, hey, we'll own a bunch of rentals, but I'm not taking the loss for all that stuff, right? So, just changing the model a little bit. be willing to adjust. And, I got highly leveraged, having all kinds of fun. First time around, I am not leveraged on anything. I have my house payment at $2,500, and if I can't afford that, then
you got more problems.
some serious issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a good piece of advice. Don't over leverage yourself. It's kind of, it makes a lot of sense. It's just being smart with what you're doing. Don't over leverage. Don't spend more money than you make, and don't buy. I mean, I don't know why somebody would buy a rental that doesn't cash flow. I don't see any point in doing that unless you're a hedge fund.
Yeah, well, some people got to be doing it. I mean, they're buying and renting, so.
I know. Well, and for the listeners out there that don't know, on a very brief explanation of what a good rental looks like, what do you like to shoot for on your cash flow per rental?
Well, I haven't had it. I don't have any rentals. My cash flow is my hard money. So that's kind of where I focus on. Obviously, I'm lending at 12, I'm paying 9 or 10. So that's kind of my delta. So these VRBOs will be kind of my cash flow just because, I'm looking for a larger number. I'm willing to do more of the work or have my personal assistant do more of the work to get that higher number.
You can't hide, man. We know your personal assistant's doing it all. So you're like, I'm going to be super busy while she is, really. I get it. Right on, man. Well, you know what? I think you shared a lot of information for us today. Are you ready to jump into a lightning round?
Well, sure. What's a lightning round? I don't know.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions. 5 questions, and you'll just answer them right away. You ready?
Yeah.
Right. So what is your hashtag invest this tip to give our listeners to keep them moving forward? If you can give them one, what would that be?
Never give up. Keep working hard.
Man, amen to that. I don't think it gets any easier than that. I mean, don't give up. Can't ever lose if you don't ever give up, right? Yeah, that's huge. Have you had a favorite book that you've read that has had a massive impact in your life or business or both?
No, actually, honestly, the stuff that I listen to is a John MacArthur podcast, which is actually religious, kind of like keeps me grounded and focused. So when I get that crappy text message, I'm good at like brushing it off the shoulder.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. I definitely, I'm working on it, but there are days when I am stressed to the max, right? And then you get that text message or that email, and it's like, oh man, it just loads you down. So I hear that. Well, who's giving you the best advice? Obviously, you've had a lot of success. I'm sure that you've had a lot of, good teachers and mentors and coaches over the years or whatever. Who's giving you the best advice, and what has that been?
So my CG mastermind, actually a lot of the stuff that I'm learning from are guys like you, way younger than me. They have a Facebook page. So I'm generally one of the older people in most circles that I run around in. So, most of I don't really know that I have necessarily a mentor. But some of the younger guys in this business are, I'm taking advice from.
Well, and that's probably the route to go because, shoot, I mean, with technology and just the run-up, I mean, how fast things change, a lot of new stuff come from young, smart, bright minds, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. How do you like to give back, Chris? Do you have something you do that you give back, whether that's monetarily, whether that's, information, mentorship yourself?
Yeah, so I started the REI Ground School with Andy Warner. So the ground school is kind of my way to give back. I've done that. I'm just in the middle of setting up a kind of a fund for kind of rehabbing distressed houses that are just overly distressed. Like a family has a 1-bathroom house and the toilet doesn't flush. And I'm in the middle of setting that up. So if anybody has any great ideas to find those families and stuff like that, I'm going to try once a month to do that with my own crews and my cash, and it's going to be donated to the family. But I think my biggest challenge is not finding the cash of the crews, but finding the actual people that need it and really need it, not get stuff submitted that is just junk.
So, I mean, is there somewhere you could go with Maricopa County that has located these people that are maybe in government assistance programs that they could, or not?
I don't know. So like that's my challenge. Like I'm setting it up. I want to do it. I've always wanted to do it. I've wanted to do it. Like, I don't know what a bathroom costs, like $7 grand, right? $8 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's families that are at 12 deep in a 3-1, right? And they got a bathroom that doesn't function, or I mean, I'm sure it's out there, right?
Oh, guaranteed. Guaranteed, for sure. Well, listeners that are listening to this now, if you have any recommendations, make sure that you send them my way so that we can pass it on to Chris. And that leads us into our last question. Chris, how can they reach you if they want to get more in touch, with what you're doing? If they're a wholesaler out there that needs a disposition leg and they need somebody that is, they can rely on, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Well, they can just sellwholesalehouses.com, right? Or just, Facebook. There's only, I think, like 2 Chris Eymanns in the country. They work, and probably only one works in real estate. So
there, funny enough, there was a guy when I first moved here, I was selling logistics services, and one of the guys that I sold to was named Chris Eymann, and I just had forgot about him. But obviously, when I loaded you into my phone, it's like, oh, forgot about this other Chris Eymann guy. He spelled his name different, but yeah, what it is. So right on, man. Well, I really appreciate you being here today and kind of sharing all the information about your operation and about, what's going on in the market, how you can help other wholesalers out there if they need it as a good disposition leg. And you're a good guy, man. So I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
Thanks.